I thought it was a fairly unremarkable debate with leaders running through their sound bites and doing their usual, until, of course, there was a marmalade dropper of a moment, and that was in the head-to-head between Reform's leader in Scotland, Malcolm Offord, and the Scottish Green co-leader, Ross Greer. And this is what Offord said. I was born in a tenement at 33 Bank Street in Greenock. Back then, Scottish education was the best in the UK, and I got it all for free at Greenock Academy and Edinburgh University. I went to London 40 years ago with £2,000 in debt. I was full of ambition, I worked hard, and I was successful. You should have put a full stop there, but he continued, today I own 6 houses, 5 cars, and 6 boats. Now, the background to this is that Offord, who's a very wealthy man, I don't begrudge him that, has refused to put a figure during the campaign on his wealth and assets, basically saying that it's none of anyone's business. Clearly, he changed his mind, and he thought that a televised leaders' debate was the right time to boast about his wealth. What did you make of it, John?
So I thought kind of, it's almost like it shouldn't really have been unexpected. It was kind of entirely in line with who Malcolm is and what his political perspective on life is. That Malcolm is, he came from a very normal family. He's an absolute child of Thatcher, who believes that free markets could set people free. You've just got to have low taxation and cut public spending, and everybody can be like him. So I think from Malcolm's perspective, he believes that this is what people want to hear. You've got a working class boy, done good. He's now got 5 houses and 6 cars and 6 yachts, and I think he thinks that's what people want to hear, and that's people will hear that and they'll think, wow, I'd like to be like Malcolm, and if we put Malcolm in charge, then maybe he can help lots of other people be like Malcolm. And that's the problem with that, is that it's not it's a valid political point of view, but it's never really one that's sold in Scotland, or certainly hasn't sold in Scotland since the 1950s. People in general in Scotland have rejected the idea of Thatcherism, trickle-down capitalism. They feel like it doesn't work, that what actually happens is you allow guys like Malcolm Offord away with murder. They make loads of money, they get loads of yachts and loads of cars and houses, and life doesn't change for...
Maybe it's not worked because it's not been tried. I mean, surely you're making the argument for it there, John, in that it's never been tried. This is what Offord's saying. Let's give this a go.
I think that's right. That's my point. I don't think Offord sees this as a misstep or something. I think he thinks that's what people want to hear, and he thinks that it'll perhaps be likely to make people want to vote for him. And I guess we'll see next Thursday.
Ben, I think that Seafeed simply said, I came from nothing. I was a successful business person. I've done well for myself. I've paid all this money in tax, and I employed thousands of people. I think that would have been a message that landed last night. But did he really need to itemize his assets?
No, I don't think he did. I mean, 6 boats in particular was quite a claim. I wasn't aware that he had more than 1 yacht, never mind 6.
He didn't say which kind of boats. Maybe a couple of them are pedals.
Yachts. I mean, there could be like a yacht, a rowing boat, a rubber dinghy.
Maybe it's the dinghy in that Deacon Blue song. Maybe he actually bought it.
Could be. I mean, I just think this is personally, and I mean, I'm sure people will disagree. I think it's a message that resonates. I think he's done very well for himself. People do want 6. I mean, you'd be a fool if you didn't want 6 houses and 5 cars and 6 boats, and to be a very, very wealthy person.
Do you think the average person wants more than they've got, right? And they're aspirational. But does the average person really want 6 boats?
Well, I think if
Or
you ask
six
the average
houses,
person,
not
would you
enough.
like 6 boats? I think they'd all say yes.
I think
I just think
the same aspiration
and the
as
reason the reason this kind of
much.
Thatcherism worked for the UK in the 80s, but it didn't work for Scotland because it wasn't it was never actually implemented here. And trickle down economics works. It works in other countries. It could work at Holyrood if it was given a chance.
I think if I was to say something positive about Thatcherism, I would say that in terms of the aspirational side, it was about aspiring to own your own home. It was about aspiring maybe to have your own business and shares. But I don't think that it was a sort of Harry Enfield, loads of money, let's buy 6 boats, 5 cars. I just don't think that sort of thing chimes with the average person. It's just not the sort of aspiration that is really seen as proper in the UK. People do want more money. I get that, and they want a pay rise, and maybe they want to be wealthy, they want to be rich. But I just think, particularly during a cost of living crisis, when people are really struggling, it just felt like he was rubbing people's noses in it.
Yeah, I mean, maybe the way it came across wasn't great. I just think the fact that we've seized on this comment about someone's success in life, it's classic tall poppy syndrome, cut people down to size. Whereas, it's equally questionable that some of the SNP's policies, imposing a price cap on the cost of a bag of potatoes. And then obviously the Greens have seized on this because they're they are openly anti-growth. That they would say the economy shouldn't grow, the economy should shrink. And yet somehow the state would then pay us all a living despite no money being put into it. So I think viewers will have, I have to say, I quite enjoyed the first hour of the debate last night. I'm going to make a confession now and say that at 8 p.m. I switched over to watch PSG versus Bayern Munich, and I'm very glad that I did. And then I caught up with the second hour this morning. But yeah, thankfully, Offord's 6 boats remark was in that first section before I put the football on.
John, I would say I want to congratulate and thank Lord Offord, because I thought it was a really boring debate, but he did lighten it up with that comment. So it's got us all talking, and fair play to Malcolm for that.
Yeah, I think it's interesting that Ben says that Thatcherism was never really tried or never implemented in Scotland, and I think that thousands of coal miners that lost their job would disagree. I think that lots of people who can't afford sky-high rents because all of the council houses were sold off would disagree. People that see their municipal services decimated because local authorities no longer have the income that they used to get from owning all of these properties. I think people that worked in shipyards and in all these industries that were decimated over the kind of Thatcher years of privatising and selling off publicly held assets believe that it's a political philosophy that just didn't work. And Malcolm has, until now, as you say, he's not been particularly talkative about where he made his money and exactly how much money he has made. My understanding is it's sort of within the private equity sphere, which is entirely about that sort of philosophy of buying companies with lots of debt and then cost cutting in order to increase their value and then selling them on, that often at the cost of thousands of jobs. So I think that people in Scotland do feel that this sort of capitalist project has been tried. This extreme capitalist Thatcherite programme has been tried and tested in Scotland, and it was a disaster for Scotland, apart from small minority of people like Malcolm who made huge fortunes and now have 5 houses. I think most people feel that the problem with that is that you've got loads of people that can't afford 1 house and a small minority that have got 5 and a few boats, and that's not really the kind of society that we should be aiming for.